Hello to another session of AZMAT System tutorials. We'll start by opening the program file. File open. And I'm using the F directory, AZMAT.xls, main program file. Open it read-only. Enter the simple password. And now entering the AZMAT System password. Now the two-letter ID, which in case I'm using AA, and 4-digit user password, my own password. So every user has their own two-letter ID and their own password. All the AZMAT System menus are here. They will be under the add-ins, as it says so. When I click OK, here add-ins will be added, and the AZMAT menus will be available from there when you click that. So I click OK there. Click add-in, all the AZMAT menus are here. So first thing I'm going to do is to go and put it in this file so I can see all the Excel menu icons up here. Very useful. I've added them all up so that I don't need to go and remember whether my, for example, protect sheet or protect workbook commands are under review. Protect sheet, protect workbook, and so on, many other commands. So I've taken up the most useful commands and the ones I need out from there, and all those are up here. Very useful. Let's so just have a quick look what we have. We have the AA.xls. So my user ID is AA, and so AZMAT System has created this file at the beginning, and then since then I've added quite a few other my cash flows, discount factors, and so on, many other things. Let's briefly have a look at this AZ parameters area, which has to be present in any, at least in one file which you're using. So in this case particularly, but before I go through the use, notice there's no scroll bars, vertical or horizontal. So I'm just going to go in the Windows, arrange all of this particular book, yes, there. So I have the scroll bars here, horizontal and the vertical available, and I can move around quite quickly. Right, so if I just drop it down, you can see this, I've highlighted, this is all in blue, and the yellow bits in between. The yellow area is where I can change the information to provide the data, whereas the blue is where the results are entered by AZMAT System. For example, in this case, duration. Results are also entered in the yellow area as well as part of the AZMAT System commands. So if I use Control key, for example, Control V to enter the for AZMAT System to calculate the present value, or Control B to present value and yield, it will enter it wherever my cell is, selection, but also in this area, present value goes there and the yield goes on here. So, but the yellow area, where all the yellow areas are specific areas where you, the user, can enter data. For example, in this case, CF date question mark, and then that means question mark means 1 to 99. It could be any number between there. So if I have got 7 there, it means use the cash flow date 7 area called cash flow date 7. So in every AZMAT worksheet, as you can see here, this particular worksheet name is AZMAT. You can see my mouse moving here. So in AZMAT worksheet, you have to have an area defined like so. So it's here from, in this case, it isn't from row. It doesn't need to be from row. It can be anywhere. It can be here, for example, if you like, from there to there, so on. But the main thing, it has to have the appropriate number of rows and columns. So this area is 2 columns wide, column 1, column 2, and the number of rows could be from row 2 to 29. So it's 28 rows maximum. But this area can also be, if you look at this here from the top, if you come from the top. So from here, we have all the other things, the calculation method. CF stands for cash flow, CF cash flow. So cash flow date and various other things for that, various other parameters and so on. And so we could have this area could also be up to, instead of 28 rows right now, 28 rows up to from 2 to 29 it can also stop at, for example, if I click here, you notice here 23, 21. Here, or it can also be 15 rows as well, 15 rows by 2 columns. And we'll see why, when you would have 15 rows, then you would have 21, or so it's 21 there. And if I stop here, let's see, that's 18, 15 rows. So if I go here, notice in order to have this, I'm using Shift key and then click there. So I have here, if I want to extend it here, I can leave that there as current selection. But from there, hold down the Shift key and then click. Still holding down the Shift key. So you don't need to go start from the top if you need. Anyway, in this particular case, I want to stop here. So if you notice here, it should tell me how many. In the top here, you'll see number of winners selection. If I hold it there, 15 rows by 2 columns. Or you can actually see for yourself in row 2 to 16. So for every new user, AZMAT System creates a workbook with AZMAT worksheet containing the AZ parameters area and a selection of other names. So this workbook is called AZMAT Data File, and it is opened automatically every time AZMAT System is started. In order to create other workbooks to use with AZMAT System, the simplest and quickest method is to save AZMAT Data File with another name by using the Excel file save as command. Note that the original AZMAT data file still exists in C:\AZMAT directory, or in this case, F:\AZMAT directory, because that's where I started AZMAT System from. So if I want to create another data file, the simplest, quickest method is to go to Excel, file, save as, and save this file with some other name. And then I can use that within AZMAT System because all the area is there. Many other things will be roughly there. You can change those cash flows, dates, and so on later. But just to distinguish here why you would have 28 rows or 15 rows or 21 rows in AZ area, we'll see here. So the AZ parameters area in the AZMAT data file is defined for an area initially from this whole 28 rows by 2 columns, allowing all valuation commands to be used. The AZ parameters area can always be defined as above in each and every AZMAT worksheet for simplicity. So it's best to have the whole, or everywhere, wherever you create another workbook with whatever name you like to call it, but have an AZMAT worksheet, and within there, you define this as the parameters here. So that's why if you simply save this file, it will already automatically have the full 28 rows by 2 columns AZMAT area that will allow you to use all valuation commands in here. However, the AZ parameters area can be defined for an area 15 rows by 2 columns or 21 rows by 2 columns in the following circumstances. So if you see here, if you go back, go down here, bring it up to there. So the first circumstance is if both check holidays and discount factor commands are not going to be used at all from a workbook. So this here from here, for example, these holidays, check holidays and discount factor days and so on, and these weekends to avoid, days to avoid, bank holidays, special days, whatever. If you're not going to use the check holidays commands, and also you're not going to use any discount factor, DF stands for discount factor. See from here, discount factor commands are here, this area basically. So you do not need that, then you can have only here, you can stop at this last rates file directory row. So you can have the area up to, if I'm holding down the shift key and I'll click here. So my selection is become 15 rows by 2 columns there. So if I'm not going to use, if you know, in a particular workbook, you're not going to use either check holidays or discount factor, both of them you're not going to use, then the AZ parameters area need only have 15 rows by 2 columns. So you need here, if I go up, that's all. 15 rows by 2 columns. There you're going to use all the other commands like present value, yield, internal rate of return, duration, etc., all these commands, but not the discount factor, nor the holiday, check holiday commands. Then it can only be, it can be just 15 rows by 2 columns. It still will be called AZ. So AZ will still be called AZ, but the actual area will be done. The second circumstance is if only check holidays command is not going to be used at all from a workbook. So you're not going to use the check holidays commands from here onwards down. So you could have only 21 rows by 2 columns. So the AZ parameters here, I can just extend it. Let's see here. This is 22, one above there, 21. So 21 rows by 2 columns I have here. That's all I need to have that. DF raise, right? So so I'm not going to check any particular. I'm not going to use it to check any holidays commands. So I don't need to have 28 rows. I can stop it. If only check holidays command is not going to be used at all, then the AZ parameters area need only have 21 rows by 2 columns. If our check holidays command is going to be used at all from a workbook, then the AZ parameter area must have 28 rows by 2 columns. So the simplest thing is actually, if you don't want to have to bother with remembering what area, is basically have the entire area here, the full 28 rows by 2 columns everywhere. Then whatever command you're going to use, whichever valuation commands, check holidays, discount factors, all the other valuation commands, then there will be no problem. Straight away, at least, you just use it, and you have to specify the actual parameters. So if in any workbook the AZ parameters area is not 28 rows by 2 columns, initially it can be increased at any time simply by copying or appending the relevant rows and redefining the name AZ on that particular worksheet. So if you initially, for example, if you did have this AZ area was only 15 rows, for example, there, up to there, and you decided then later on, oh, I want to calculate discount factor as well from this particular workbook, then you'd extend it up to 21 rows here. And then also, if you want to do the holidays commands as well, then extend it to the whole to 28 rows by 2 columns. So I suggest basically keep it to the minimum, keep it to the maximum, 28 rows by 2 columns all the time, and just define it and everywhere use that. So simplest thing, you don't have to then worry about what the length or width should be at any given time. Let's have a quick look here to see within the AZ parameters area what must be specified or what may be specified. So must be obviously means you have to specify it. Maybe is you have a choice, you either do it or not if you feel like it. If you want AZMAT system to calculate it well, or the AZMAT system automatically puts the results there, so you don't have to. So that's where I would use the word may be specified. But where it says must, you have to do that, for example. So starting from the top, calculation method 1 or 2, we will see later on as we get in more detail and more advanced tutorials, we'll see what's the difference between all these different methods or here, all these different things. We'll go in quite detail, every single of these items. So, but for now, this is just an overview. So in this case, calculation method must be specified as must be either 1 or 2. I suggest you leave the default. Default means when you haven't set something, it's already there, usually. So 2. Now, the other one, so after that calculation method must be 1 or 2, you would have number 2 there automatically. So just don't touch it, leave it there all the time. It is important that you have to have that. You cannot not have it. You can, for example, cash flow one, you can simply delete that, have nothing in there, in which case AZMAT system will ask you for it, what the cash flow, which cash flow date area is, which cash flow, which cash flow you want to use, and you can point out and so on. So, but the calculation method is very simple. So we just 1 or 2, leave it number 2, as it will be there initially, and we will see the difference later on. Right, the second one is the cash flow date. As we say, it must be specified. Now, if you don't specify here, when it says cash flow date, it's not like you have a choice. You just leave, for example, the cash flow date from this worksheet or from this workbook. These two may be specified, so you don't have to specify. If you don't specify anything in those 2 columns, the cash flow date worksheet or cash flow date workbook, AZMAT system will use the current workbook, which is this file, and this particular worksheet. where AZ parameters area is. In this case, it's AZMAT. So these two are not essential because it will then assume you want to use this particular worksheet and from this particular workbook, which is AA.XLSX. However, see update, if you leave this blank, you don't specify it there, it will not be able to calculate the actual your command, and it will require you to specify it at the time just before actually calculating the result. So for example, if I go ahead, if I actually type in here, for example, if I have select that cell and I say either use a control key command, one of the control keys, say control V, for example. Let's say control V. Now, what happens here? First thing it says here is AZMAT system needs to carry out various checks and calculations on a daily basis before any live or manual rates file can be used. Either ZRUSD.XLSX manual has not been edited today, or certain files have been deleted, so not by AZMAT system. And you have no other choice but to click OK here to get rid of this message box. This is a warning message here, triangle, exclamation mark. So this is actually saying to me that that US dollar curve, which I want to use, I cannot use it yet because today in here, if I go through here, I'm not sure you can see, it is 6th of July 2017, Thursday, 6th of July 2017, year date, and I have not actually edited that particular curve, which if I move here, you can see ZRUSD.XLSX. Remember, this is something you have to do once a day for every curve file you want to use. So if you're using US dollar reference curve, that name is ZRUSD.XLX, it has to be edited. I open from the add-ins, then the K menu, and open it for file edit or rates edit before you can use it. So I pressed here Control V to calculate and present value, but I have not done this bit yet. So I have to do that first before it will even come to this cash flow bit, because we haven't defined actually specified the cash flow, which cash flow to use. So before it will get to that, first thing first, it wants us to basically, it will not carry out until you do either open this for rates or file edit and then close it. So click OK. So now you have a choice again giving you saying please either cancel this command. The command, remember what it was? Control V. I had put my cursor somewhere here and I pressed Control V in order to calculate the present value. And I was expecting it'll ask me to specify the cash flow date because I have kept this bit blank, this cell, there's nothing there. So it has to, the user has to let AZMAT system know which cash flow date area you want to use. But before we get to that point, you have to open rates file, in this case ZRUSD, because that is what you have got here already is there. If there was a ZRGBP, for example, here, ZRGBP.XLSX or just GBP, so it's the British pound sterling curve file. That's the one it will have here, asking you to change that, not this one. So that basically it's only interested in, because there are several curve files for different currencies, and only those currencies which you want to use today or any day, whenever you're actually using it, those files you have to edit every day. on the day of use. So if I was not going to use ZRUSD, for example, and I was going to use only the GBP and JPY, Japanese yen file, I needn't open ZRUSD.xlsx or ZRUSD.xls, depending on which version of Excel you're using. I need not do the open it or do the for the rates or file edit if I was not going to use it that day. Now, in real life, of course, in an investment bank, they will be using almost all the currencies. They have most definitely US dollar will be used every day. So you need to edit that, open it and edit it for rates edit or file edit, basically. But some other currencies, for example, they might not, that particular bank may not deal in that such, so they may not need to open it and edit it that day. So you do not have to open every single rates file, only the file you want to use in any calculations. They have to be open or for rate edit or for file edit and saved using AZMAT System command. Then it does various calculations and it has to create various other intermediary files which it requires in when you're calculating the various valuation instruments. Okay, so for now, we're back to here. So I'll bring it up here back to where it was and was central just for leave. Otherwise, next message will also be there off center. So please either cancel this command. This command is referring to the Control V command. Remember, the one I had asked you to present the present value calculate. So that particular command, either cancel that command and edit rates file that, or use a different file. So for example, I may have edited already for rates or file edit ZRGBP, for example. And if I was happy to use ZRGBP, if that's what I want to use, I could carry on by simply changing the file name, not using ZRUS dollar, and here by specifying a different currency, right? Or use a different file. So press OK to enter another file name and or directory, or press cancel to cancel this command. So you see the command is getting a little bit complicated, but just to make sure we are still with it, first thing is the Control V, present value command, Control V. Calculate present value cannot be carried out because this particular file has not been edited today. So either I can cancel this command and then edit that particular rates file, either for open it for edit rates or edit file, or I can specify a different currency file now and then continue with the command. So let's just cancel it all together. Choose to cancel this command. Are you sure? Basically, if you want to return, so you can click OK to return to the input box, or click cancel to cancel. I want to cancel it completely. Right, that command I've canceled the Control V. First thing I have to do is to edit this particular rates file if that's what I want to use. Or in this case, just to show you, I can just simply enter, for example, GBP. There, just a 3-character currency code for British pound sterling, GBP. So again, I know on this today, 6th of July, I have not yet opened this file for rates edit. So exactly the same error message I'll get if I now press Control V or any other valuation commands. So let's see that. Just you can see what I mean. And this time it won't say for ZRUSD. It will say basically this should say about the GBP because that's what I've got here. So if I press Control V, Right. First thing it is done here is, if you look at it here, it has changed the GBP, small case GBP. I had changed the file name to be ZR because it's reference curve, and all reference curves begin with ZR in here, or ZN is a different one you'll see later on, but in this case, ZR, gbp.xlx. So change GBP currency to full file name is that. And then very similar message here, slightly different here, is actually basically telling you that AZMAT System needs to carry out various checks and calculations on a daily basis before any live or manual rates file can be used. So saying exactly what I've been saying for the last few minutes. So before you use any calculations, you have to actually edit it for rates or file edit. So either ZRGBP XLS manual file has not been edited today, or certain files have been deleted, not by AZMAT System. So not just that, but if you went ahead and deleted one of these 4 intermediate files which AZMAT System creates, whenever you do a file edit or rates edit on any reference curve. So if even though you have used the rates edit file edit, but if you delete one of those intermediate files, you'll get exactly the same message, and you have to do again the whole thing. So best thing, do not delete any files which you do not have to, which you do not need to. So there's no reason for you to go ahead and start deleting files, because it will check and it will not carry out the commands. Right, click OK. So again, I'll basically cancel this, because this was just to show you that it wasn't just ZRUSD. It'll be any currency file you have specified here. It will come up with the same message. So click OK. Again, you get in here command to others. That use different file name of that. I will just cancel it completely. Command cancel it. Yes, I want to cancel this command completely there. Okay, let's go, and we will basically do the file edit, rates edit on this and the ZR USD. So add-ins, K menu for curve. I know curve begins with C, but I'm using K because that's the nearest I could get to the K sounding word, because the C I could not use it. Right. So open curve for rates edit. So GBP, I'm opening it for rates edit. It's come up with ZRUSD because that was the one last time it was used. So in this case, I want to use GBP. So I can just change it to GBP and delete that. So ZRGBP.xlxx, letting user know that you have to wait. Right, we are here. Let's open that file for rates edit. Please note the changes file will not take effect unless an AZMAT System command is used at the end of the editing. So remember, it'll keep on reminding every single time you open this file, any rates file, that you have to use one of the AZMAT System commands at the end. Okay, and because it's rates edit, only the yellow area. Here, there, any of these items, any of these here, and if we scroll it down, scroll further down, it goes down up to here. So we can change anything in yellow. We cannot. Notice, even if I'm clicking to move my cursor anywhere here, it will not go. It'll only go here within the yellow area. Anywhere, I can change any of these values, but not anything outside the yellow area. So let's assume normally you would make some changes. Obviously, the prices will change slightly, but only very slightly. So I would advise you not really change anything. Keep these so there will be realistic values when you come out of it. And let's just now we'll just simply use the AZMAT System command again from K menu. So add-ins, click that. Cursor can be, note the cursor can be here. It's left here. Doesn't matter wherever it is. You can put it here, there, wherever. It will itself put it where it needs to later on. So add-ins, K menu, and save. Save curve changes. I know you haven't made any changes. And you might think, well, it's the same file. Yes, this file is the same, but not quite the same because the date is different. If it was calculated last time, let me show you. If I come out of it, click somewhere, I want to go up here. So if it is at the top now, last saved by AA, that's me. My initials AA here, and my user ID is AA. It doesn't have to be your real initials. Can be, you can use any 2-character ID except not with beginning with Z. Okay, because they are reserved for the. For example, you can't use ZR because if you did that, how would you distinguish between your file and the AZMAT System various program files? So it will not allow you to use those. But, okay, so last saved by AA on the 5th of July, 12:56 a.m. So this particular file was not edited on today, the 6th of July. So that is one thing for sure. And so when it changes, the values of all these here, they will be different. They'll be slightly different. You'll notice that the dates will definitely change, and the various background calculation values will be different because the date now is different. So when we go here, and then you notice that this date will change to 6th of July, and the time now, which will be like right now, is 02:55. So maybe it might become 02:56 by the time it has done that. Let's see what happens. So and the date will change to 6th of July. So add in K menu and save curve changes. Right? Okay, to keep any changes you made. At this point, you still have a chance to abandon the edit session. So if you made some mistakes, you want to basically cancel the whole edit session, use the cancel command. We'll use the OK because we want to save it and see briefly, but we will open it. At this point, it's not finished yet. Sorry, that command is finished, but this state is not. We are on a different file. We are back to this aa.xlsx file. AZMAT System completed required calculation rates file, ZRGBP, and the file has been saved. Okay. So if you want to see, we can open curve file. So open curve for view. It has this time ZRGBP, not USD, because that was the last currency file that was opened, ZRGBP. So it's got that there in case you wanted to use the same file. So we're opening it, remember, this time for viewing only. So we're not changing anything. There, 6th of July, 02:56. As I thought when I used the command, I said it will put in that date and time when it was last saved and who saved it. Last user was, in this case, by my ID AA. Later on, we'll go through all these settlement in the number of days and contract size and all these other things in detail. But for now, this file is ready to be used in any calculation. So ZRGBP. So it's a reference curve. That's why it's called. It has ZR. So you can say you're going to specify this curve by either full file name or just the 3-letter currency code, GBP. Let's also do now, we open the, before I open, let me just show you here. We have two files open, ZRGBP, which is this file, and the AA.xlsx, that's my user data file. Okay, so we click that, we finish. I don't want to use that. I'll come back here, add-ins. See, AZMAT system menus are only available when you click add-ins. Then they are here. If you don't click add-ins, they're not there, because then we are basically within Excel, as if although AZMAT system file, AZMAT system is open and AZMAT system files are in memory in here. Two of these files are here, not hidden, both ZRGBPA, but there are other files. If you go in here, unhide window command, look at it, you can see those files are there. Several files are open in memory, and if I scroll down, you'll notice that it's got some more files actually than is right at the when we first open AZMAT system. So they are all open, but they're all hidden. Some of them have password protected. So if you just click OK, it won't unhide it. But some files are not password protected for looking at it. But you, whether they are password protected or not, you will know. You'll be given the passwords of all more than 100 system files that are used by AZMAT system, and you will have a very easy way of remembering as well. So let's cancel it right now. This is just to show you that these other files are also open, but only two files currently: GBP, pound sterling curve, and the AZMAT data file for AA user are here open and unhidden. Let's remember, this is read-only, open read-only, and so you can't change anything. Notice here, if I'm clicking my cursor, but it doesn't go anywhere, even the yellow area, which normally when you open for race edit, it could go. Of course, it didn't go anywhere else, and it won't go so now. In these later versions of Excel, earlier versions of Excel, you could go easily wherever you want to, but this is different. Okay, let's go into add-ins, K menu for curve, and this time we want to open curve for race edit, and this time we'll do the US dollar. So instead of ZR, GBP, I can just simply give the USD, enter USD, the 3 characters currency code for US dollar curve. So instead of entering ZR USD.XLSX, I've just entered just the USD. Okay. So again, I get a message, please wait until ready is displayed. Until ready is displayed in this lower left corner of the screen. There, ready is here. That means now it is actually opening. And you can see here, the ZR USD curve file is open. Gives me a message saying this, open that file for race edit session. Okay, no, that change will not take effect unless an AZMAT system command is used at the end of editing. Okay. Right, so here, open for race edit. That means I can only change items which are in yellow color, right? Only those. So if I can go, I can move my cursor there, anywhere there, anywhere, any yellow area, but not. It won't go anywhere even. Anywhere outside the yellow area. So you don't have an opportunity even to change anything outside. So even outside here, I can't change anything. Right? I can only change everything, anything in the yellow area. So remember, again, we are not particularly actually going to change any values here. You could change it, but I would advise you if you change it very minute. amounts, not huge amounts, and they have to, because they are to get some realistic values results. If you don't just change down here to some large value here, then some smaller value, because they mean different things. And as time is increasing, these values have to either increase or decrease, or not increase or decrease in certain order. Otherwise, it won't make any sense. For example, very briefly, I'm not going to go in much detail, but look at this. SP stands for spot. So the spot rate is 3.000 bid for the cash at 1 month maturity is 3.127, 3-month maturity 3.189. So if you made it the other way around, or if you made this 4 and this is 3.189, it'll just be silly, because obviously you'll always get, in this particular case, in this, you will not get, those values will not make any sense. So I would just advise you simply open it, reset it, or file edit somewhere where you need to be changing in the features area at all. You could, in theory, change any of these items as well. But again, if you make some changes just for the sake of making changes, and you make a mess of it, then you'll have very AZMAT system will run, but the values, the actual calculation values, will just not make any sense. It looks silly. For example, these futures and these items here, basis and the frequency, they have to be. In this case, for example, quarters for futures. Don't start making it annual or something, because it just looks silly. It will not make any sense at all. So there are certain limits to what you can and cannot do. You will learn later when we actually go in detail each of these items, what they are. We will go in another tutorial. But at this point, all we are going is looking at overview of AZMAT system, and even this is taking several hours of tutorial. So we don't want to go into that detail yet at this point. In future course, we will. Okay, right now, so the next thing is, once you've opened it, add-ins, K-menu, save curve changes. Remember, when you say save curve changes, you might wonder, oh, I haven't done anything, I haven't actually made any changes. You'll be wrong, because first thing for a start, it's a different day. 1 day has gone by since this curve was last changed. So if I look at it here, this curve was last saved by AA user ID 5th of July, 10:26 p.m. Now, as I speak, it's 6th of July, a day later. So it's 1 day later, makes difference. All the calculations of these here, and also up in the background files, it creates various background files, background calculations. They will be, they have to be prepared, and some of those are with several decimal places, and you'll see how you will notice in the actual results. So don't think that, oh yes, I'm opening it and I'm closing it. It's not. There are many other calculations doing it in the background. Right, add in K, save. Yes, okay, to save changes. Right, it's completed calculations. Click OK, fine, done. So now it's changed this. This is, remember, no, this is the GBP which we had opened. It has opened the US dollar which we just did, has done the calculations and closed it, because if you notice here, it's not open anymore. It's got the ZRGBP and the AA, the data file, user data file. This GBP, we had opened it after it had finished editing in read-only mode, just to make sure, just to show you the date and the time that when it's actually opened it. So if I want to see the ZR USD, I can open that to have a look at it if that's what I want. So K menu, so add-ins, K menu, that's where the curve files are. Open curve for view. So I can open this. It's already got ZR USD because that was the last curve name I had used. Okay. There. It's got the ZR USD. It hasn't just changed the other curve file. It looked like as if it's changed GBP to USD and so on. No. What it is in exactly the same position. But that file is still here, ZRGBP. So I'm on ZRUSD because that's what I've just opened. 6th of July, 3:07 a.m. It's done these calculations. If I go and have a look, GBP, there, pound sterling curve, GBP, that was done earlier, 2:56 a.m. And the US dollar, 3:07 a.m. Right, so what it means now, we can use either or both of these rates files in our calculations. So if you have a look, if you go back, we don't have to have these files open in memory. We don't have to have them up here. So let me just show you here. So we have ZRUSD, ZRGBP. They do not need to be opened here as read-only or whatever to do the calculations. Having opened and done the rates edit or file edit, they can be closed and they will still be used as required. So let's just close this. So we go here, K menu, let's say close current file, do not save changes. So it won't ask us any, again, dialog box saying, do you really want to, and all that nonsense. If that's because in this case, we don't want to make any changes. We cannot indeed make any changes because it's been open as read-only here. It's open as read-only. So if I want to make any changes, even in the yellow area, I can't. As you can see, my cursor, this particular version of Excel would not even move there where I'm clicking. So I don't want to waste my time answering questions that yes, do I really want to save or not, and all that. So I'll use this command, close current file, do not save changes. Obviously, I have to be on that particular curve in order to use that command. Don't use it on, like, for example, your data file if you want to save something which you've done on there. So this one, I'm making sure I'm on the curve file, close current file. Remember, it doesn't say it's curve. Whichever file it is, if you don't want to make change, use this command and just close it. So now I'm on the GBP. The US dollar curve file has been closed. And again, I'll do the same. Add-ins, K menu, close current file, do not save changes. Done. Brilliant. Now I'm only here, I've got my data file left here. I could use that command again here, but I wouldn't. Why would I want to save it? No changes to this. So be careful on which command you use and when. Right, let's have a quick look at this here. What you have to have and what you don't. We were here somewhere, remember, and we were going to use, I was going to show you here originally using the GBP curve. I wanted to calculate the present value without entering the cash flow parameter, which must be specified. So when it says it must be specified, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to use number here. CF date number here. You can, but you have to specify either there. That is the simplest way. You just enter a number here, or use your command, either your control keys here, or use the add-ins, and this time in X menu, calculate present value, yield, or all these other, any of these other commands. So I'm going to use here Control V to calculate the present value, and it will enter the present value here. But before it does, it'll ask me which cash flow should it use, since I have not put any number here. So if I enter Control V, for example, calculate present value there, this time it will then, have I entered Control V? No, thought I had entered Control V. Let me see here. Control V. Yep, I have got here Control V now. Because I haven't given any number here for cash flow date, that's why it's asking me now cash flow date here to specify. I either click the first date, and then it will just go down until it comes a blank cell, and then it will use that area for cash flow, or I can specify the entire cash flow area here, or I can specify only like first 2 rows or 3 rows or whatever. So you don't have to use any full cash flow area, whatever you have here, but only what you wanted to use. You can also go down here. I can go somewhere else. Maybe I'll say, for example, use cash flow date 8, for example. So I can give just that top cell there. So this time it's going to use cash flow date 8, and we'll go down up until it can go down 1 row by each row by time until it comes blank cell. Then it'll say, right, the cash flow date area is from there up to there, and of course it is always the 2 columns, cash flow, because it's the date and the amount. So you need to specify either just the first date cell, or indeed the entire date cell, entire cash flow date area you want to. So I click OK here now, and remember this time we are using cash flow date 8. So OK, and the answer will be somewhere up on the top. If I go back here now, remember I put my cell somewhere here before, here or there, I can't remember where, somewhere around here, before when I press Control V to calculate present value. So the answer would be there. Let's see. So we will specify the top cell, the first date cell of the cash flow date 8 area. Click OK. Right, cash flow date 8, from there it's calculated down. And if I go back there now on the top, that's where my cell was when I press Control V for value, present value. And so it's got minus 245,653, and it's got the same here, 4 decimal places. And it has not entered 8 here at all, because I may have specified maybe not the full. If I want, in this case, it has, although it has used full from there to there. And to show you that, we did this on another tutorial, but we'll just do it here. It doesn't take very long. So if I put this time, say 8, means I'm telling it to calculate whatever valuation I'm going to use, V for value, present value, Y for yield and present value, and so on, using cash flow date 8 area. And this is the same as that. 245, 653.3255. So let's say this time I'm going to delete this to show you that it will actually put in the same calculation there. Delete that, have it blank, and I'll say I'll put my two cells here because I'm going to ask it to do both present value and yield. So the top will be present value, second would be yield, and this top should be the same as that. And also it should put it here as well, same present value. Using cash flow date 8. Okay, this time I'm not actually specifying it there, I've just put the number 8. So Control B for both present value and yield. Calculate and put the results here in these two cells. Plus here as well. Here will go the present value in that cell, and then below is the yield. Okay, Control B for both. There. So we have here same 245, 653, 245, 653, same as that, present value, and the yield is 5.449025 decimal places. In here, I've got it here because this particular cell, it appears to be the format is integers, no decimal places. I can check it. If I go into, as you can see here, the actual value here is in lots of decimal places, but I must have it, the format must be the integer values, no decimal places. That's why it's not showing any decimal places here. Okay, let's proceed now. We'll just continue with this here. I just want to go through this quickly. This what must be specified or what may be specified. So remember, if it says must, it means you have to do it. And may, for example, in this case, see update from this worksheet or from this workbook, these you do not have to. If these are left blank, AZMAT System will use the current file or workbook. The file A.xlx, this is the workbook or file, if you like, or the worksheet is here, the current worksheet, which in this case is AZMAT. I could have other worksheets here. So, but by not specifying any particular worksheet or another workbook, it just simply assumes that you want to use the current workbook and worksheet. So they may be specified or may be left blank. Now the other things here, yield basis and yield frequency. And here, yield basis can be 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And the yield frequency is ASQ or numbers 1 to 7. Now we will go in this detail exactly what's the difference and when you would use what. And there is quite a bit of difference, and you will see the actual difference in the values calculated from using different the actual values for whether yield frequency is annual, semi-annual, quarterly, and so on, and the same basis. We'll go through those later on. But these must be specified. And in order to save the space, I'm using only the one cell and using a comma to separate the two items. So otherwise this would have been like, instead of like already 28 rows rather, it could have been even longer, very much longer. There is no need to, I'm saving space by, in this case, using a comma. So the first character, in this case is number, 0 to 4 is for yield basis, separate by a comma. The second one means the one after comma is the yield frequency. So these must be specified, both of these items. What they are, you have to say so. The other one now, then PV method, ABOMPV. We will go into detail exactly what they are, what they mean. In this case, using B for bid. Then the present value may be specified for yield calculation. But AZMAT system enters the calculated present value here. So you could specify it here, but AZMAT system will also enter that same area for once it has done some calculation using, say, control keys, for example, or using the add-ins and from X menu, say present value. When it does the calculation, it puts the result there and not in any particular cell. Notice that you could also have these results in a message box here on the screen if you have, for example, display results on or off. So if you have the display results on, at present they're off. That's why they're not being shown. But if you have the display results on, it will also show in a message box what is done, the result of its calculations, whatever you're doing. We have done this other places before. You can do it to your heart's content. Use any of these here and see what they are. I have done in other tutorials, covered these items. So we won't go through those now. Note that here, there's a difference, big difference here. You must realize when the present value is 0, yield is IRR, internal rate of return. So, for example, if you ask it to calculate the IRR, internal rate of return, AZMAT system will enter 0 there for present value and calculate the yield. Okay, let's show you that. In here, I'll close this. It's nothing new. I want it to, using that, I want the internal rate of return. Note I'm not using Control R or anything. I can use here in the X menu. So this, to get AZMAT system menu, I have to click the add-ins. So I'm here outside, somewhere here. Click add-ins, X menu, which is next to the K. And here, say internal rate of return. I'm asking you to calculate the internal rate of return. So as you see here, internal rate of return, IRR, is the yield when PV, present value, is 0. So it has changed whatever else I had there before, present value, and put 0 there. I did not put, AZMAT system put 0 there, and then the internal rate of value, internal rate of return, which is this value there, to make sure that you, the user, is aware that this is IRR, because present value is 0. Next one is duration. Duration in years. This is in years here. Whether it's specified or not, it is not used to calculate anything. The duration is not used, even if you put something here, whatever, it's not used to calculate anything. AZMAT system enters the calculated duration here. So if I use add-ins, and then the X menu, there are two different duration here. Fuel curve is not flat. Again, these are very specialist. It's a very specialist topic. We'll get into detail later on, in the particularly when we're doing the investment calculations. So let's just do the Macaulay's duration for now. And remember, the result it will put in here, duration. in blue here. My college duration I want to do. See, it's here, very much longer, very large value here, as you can see, completely billions or so in here. Out of it will not fit in here. That's why you've got these hashes. So you can do two things: either expand the column width very much, or in this particular case, because it doesn't make any sense for this particular the actual parameters for that. It's a huge, very, very large value here, and it's negative one, as you can see that here. So I'm going to do again here. Let's see whether X1 here, duration if yield curve is not flat. Right, so here this time you're getting some meaningful value, and that is, say, minus 15.74300, not the other. My college duration was way, way out, completely in billions or something. So this makes more sense. That's why there are two different durations, and you will go into that details as to which one you would use and when, if you are interested and would like to learn about that in detail. But for now, we're not going to go into that. This one is only just to show you which of these values you have to specify, which you do not. So just to recap, cash flow date must be specified either by a number here to specify cash flow date, or later on to specify before any calculations can be carried out. The curve name must be specified before anything can be done at all. And these yield basis and the yield frequency and the PV method must be specified. Rates filed here, live or manual curve, 1 equals live, 0 equals manual. So if you have 0 here, it means manual curve. Rates file directory, if not ZR or ZN file. So ZR and ZN files system, AZMAT system will look into the program directory for these files. So you do not need to specify the rates file directory, but any other curve, any curve or file, rates file that does not begin with ZR or ZN, you have to specify the directory or folder where it is, where that particular curve is there. Right, so for non-reference curves, you could specify, but for reference curves, you don't need to specify. And in fact, indeed, it will not look anywhere else other than program directory for ZR or ZN curves. So rates file, that's why it's maybe specified depending on which curve you're using. DF method, DF stands for discount factor. Discount factor is something you will find essential. But in fact, in order to calculate the present value, you have to calculate discount factor first. We will go into very much detail later on when we actually are doing investment banking calculations course, so on. But anyway, the method must be specified. So DF method, very similar to CF. CF cash flow, DF discount factor. So all these things are very, very similar, as you notice here. So discount factor method also is PV method, present value method, A, BOM PV, A, BOM DF. There are specific last two here, PV and BF, DF. I used it. Normally you do have bid, offer, mid, or all of them, and these are special ones So I've decided to use these. But that's where they are. They may be specified. So the method, df method must be specified, but all the others, basically the worksheet, from which worksheet to use, which workbook to use, okay, maybe just like cash flow one. Now, this particular point, df date, if you make it 100, if you put it 100 here, like I have here now, it means use the CF date. So discount factor date is really just the date part of the cash flow. It can be like that. So instead of actually, like saying here, use the, again, DF date different, and it will just be too confusing. I'm saying that if you want to use the CF date, whatever CF date is, put 100 here. Or instead of 100, if you had a number here, so DF date 5, for example, then you must have a discount factor date area, like here, like DF date 1, DF date 2, whatever, DF date 5. Then if you put 5 here, then it's going to look for DF date 5, not CF date 5. Remember, the CF date, whatever that number CF date area is, only when you put 100 here in the DF date cell. And the same thing applies here, as we said before, for the cash flow date worksheet and workbook. Exactly same thing applies here. DF date from this worksheet or this workbook. Maybe specified. If you don't specify, if they're blank, it assumes you mean the current workbook and the current worksheet, where this AZ parameters areas is present. Now, if you have, for example, we will see that later on, but if you had the AZ parameters area in another worksheet, but there is an AZMAT area, AZMAT worksheet, it will use the parameters defined in the AZ area, parameter area of AZMAT worksheet, not in some other worksheet which may be present and which also has AZ area. It will use the one with AZMAT worksheet. Now, for the similar thing applies to, if you go down further in here, before we get to the holiday, okay, we can just about see it here. DF res is for result. So where to put the results? Again, exactly same 1 to 99 for the DF res, and this from this worksheet, from this workbook, and so on. So whereas the first one must be specified, if you don't specify, if it's blank, then it'll ask you for it to show on the screen, on the in the worksheet, where exactly by pointing with the arrow, with the mouse, or entering it in the dialog box, which it will ask, will present to you. Now below that, below the DF result, if you go down, we have the holidays. So DF date weekends. So we have date weekends. So DF date, if it's basically, if you have it 1, it means weekends. Avoid Saturday or Sunday. Because in most Western countries, Saturday and Sunday are holidays. Whereas in some other countries, different days are for holidays, not Saturday and Sunday. In some countries, Saturday is a working day. So in this case, in here, what we are using is, if we put 1, it means avoid Saturday or Sunday. DF dates to avoid. Now you could also have these special dates. For example, here you see you can only see one, but you can have an array of dates. So we have 3 dates here. 39441 is actually the numerical value of a date. So AZMAT system doesn't use the date, for example, in this format, Monday, 2nd September 2019. Instead, if I copy this one, if I say, right, select that, copy that, I put it somewhere here, for example, and I say paste special and paste it as values. You should come up with an integer, something like that. It will not be that, but it will be something, an integer value for 2nd September 2019, which AZMAT system uses, which Excel uses it internally. There. So 43710 is the numerical value of 2nd September 2019. So AZMAT system uses the same as Excel, obviously, and Excel, the date is not kept like this. Instead, the Excel program uses the numerical value, converts that is actually uses the 43,710. That value uses for that date. So here, 39,441 obviously means some other date. So if I, for example, enter 39441, 39441, I'm entering that date there in here. And if I have if the date form, if this is formatted in date format like that, I'll see the actual date. If it's not, I'll simply copy the format here. But I think this particular area probably already formatted like that. There. So this one has got Tuesday, 25th of December, 2007, for example. So avoid Christmas Day. That's why you got it here as a special date, because it was a Tuesday. If it was a weekend, Saturday or Sunday, it will avoid, but just because it's a Tuesday, so we put it as a special date in here in this case. Not just that, also it's got 39448 and 39468. And if you put it there, and if it's not formatted, for example, let's do it here just to show you how you would do that, because here it's already formatted in date format, so you saw it. But if I, for example, enter it here, for example, there, same one, I'll just use the same. So you'll see that 39441, if I enter it here, it's very likely it will just leave this as 39441 number, unless it's already formatted. It's not, see? It's not formatted in this date format, this column. The reason is I have kept it there because I could use all these other different calculation results. But you can easily, again, either copy the date format here from there, or copy another date format, which let's go down here. So this is in row 6, column 3, 39441. If I have some other format here, no, all of them here are, no, I have here, for example, here. This is a date format, day, month, year. So I'll select that, I want to copy that, right? Copy that date format, because this other one here, this is quite wide, and I don't think that particular column there I have is wide enough. This column is not as wide as this column. See? So I want to copy that here. So I'll wait a minute. No. That's right. I'm copying that from there, 29th August 2017, in that format, day, month, year. So paste is special, and I want to copy the formats only. Okay, so it's not going to change the whole date, just the format of that particular column, date format. So the date, day, month, space, month, 2-digit, and the year 2-digit. There, 25th of December 2007. See, so the same, so the format in this one here, if I try to copy that, it would definitely not fit in, and I'll see just hashes here. It's because it couldn't fit in this particular column width, and I don't want to change the column width here. So that number, so in Excel, the dates are, when you can use an array, and you'd enter the numerical values of dates here as an array. So then the AZMAT system here, we can say, right, avoid these special dates. You can also say dates to avoid bank holidays of this currency, for example, of GBP and US dollar, not just one currency, several currencies as an array. Several more, not just two, be any number. Not any number, but because there is a limit to how many you can fit in one cell. But it is reasonably long, so you can specify the various currencies if you want. And this to avoid the bank holidays of these special currencies, and also this to avoid the special dates of this particular currency. In this case, Deutschmark, GBP, JPY, US dollars, so American, Japanese, British, and German. Special dates of all those, avoid those as well. So when you do any holiday, check holidays, check for holiday calculation command, you're saying automatically for those currencies, avoid those special days and bank holidays of those currencies. So that covers this whole AZMAT system area, AZ area, which the items which must be there or which may or may not be specified, which you have to use. So we'll now, I think we'll stop now, reasonable time, then we'll begin something else another time for another tutorial. I'm still in this edit mode, as you can see that here. So I'll press the escape key to get out of it. And now I can save this AZMAT data file. So let's just save. So let's have a quick look here what we have in memory. There's only one file open. It's fine. I want to save it, so I'll use the add-in. Quickest thing is to use add-in and use save AZMAT data file. So when it says AZMAT data file, that means it's the current user's data file there. And by using that, the good thing is it will actually put in the date and the time when this file was last saved. If you use Excel file save, you can use it, but That's not going to put the date and time for you. So we'll now more or less finish with the general description of the AZ area. Next time we'll do something else, and we'll not spend any more time on this. We will go, of course, each of these parameters, what they are later on, but not as an overview, if you like. That will be part of the detailed one when we go through each and every single command and the different terms which AZMAT system uses. So let's stop this here. Let's see. I'm going to stop this session now. See you next time.